Welcome to Comics Bazaar, the channel of comics commentary and arcana. This video features X-Force number 23, cover dated June 1993. The cover is well designed, penciled and inked by Greg Capullo, featuring Domino standing in triumph over a beaten Deadpool and Sluggo here. What I really like about this is Sluggo's face there, his boxer's nose, and the blood coming streaming down out of his mouth onto the ground. That's really well done. Just the way that his face is resting on the ground there. Nicely done by Capullo. And very interesting, in the cover corner box, we have Cable featuring once again, even though he's not in the issue itself, and Domino's back in the corner box as well, implying her coming reunion with the X-Force team, or in her case, the very first time that she meets them, because she was replaced by a doppelganger, Vanessa, a shapeshifter, for the duration of her appearance at the end of New Mutants and throughout X-Force up to this point. So let's open this one up to the splash page. The story opens at night at the service entrance to a hospital, St. Anthony's. The title of the story is Compromising Positions, and the creative team, Fabian Nicieza, writer, and Greg Capullo. Penciler, Harry Candelario is on inks. And then I don't know what to make of this. Spike Alphabet Marie, or Ted Turner, that could be Marie Javins on colors, but I don't know who is responsible for the lettering there. And yeah, this is an interesting splash page. It's intriguing because if you want to save time penciling a splash page, put your characters in silhouette, as Capullo's done here, with only little details of their costumes showing in the light. But every single character is recognizable from their silhouette, whether it's Shatterstar here with his swords, Feral here crouching on the ground with her cat's claws extruded there, Sunspot here with his bandana, and Richter at the door winding up for a release of his vibrational powers to open up that service entry door. So let's get into the story. This is a really great panel where he does precisely that. I like the perspective there, the foreshortening on his hand as he directs his vibrational power to open the lock, and in they go. And again, great spotting of blacks on these two pages here, and the colouring very complementary of the nighttime environment and scene. So in they go. There's a bit of banter here between Feral and Shatterstar. Shatterstar asks, "Do you smell anything?" And she responds, "Just your lipstick and blush, pretty boy." Richter seems to have taken up the leader role, and he tells them both to shut up. Down the hall, third door to the right. And Feral can smell their quarry. He's here. And so Sunspot opens the door. We get a nice anchor image here of our X-Force members posing, grimacing, but it all looks very cool. And who is it that they have come to? Whose hospital bed is this? Who is bandaged entirely in that hospital bed? It's the person they were looking for. It's a he. And Sunspot lifts him up out of the bed. Shatterstar there cutting the tubes that were attached to whoever the patient might be, and there they are outside loading him onto their plane. Again, another nice panel with everything in silhouette, but it all reads very well. So who is this? And it's a real nice surprise when we turn the page and we find out exactly who it is. So there, we see him on the last panel. So they fly off into the night, and Shatterstar starts removing the bandages. And our mystery man says, "Why should I give information to you fleshling whelps?" And Shatterstar threatens him and says, "Because you are completely at our mercy, that's why. Tell us everything you know about the externals. What do I receive in return?" asks our mystery man. And Richter says, "Besides your neck, the chance to let us do what you want to, but in your current condition can't. The chance to see them taken down player by player. Does that appeal to you, Cruel?" So that's who it is. We haven't seen him in well over 6 months, all the way back in X-Force 14 and 15. The last we saw of him, he was falling from the X-Force's iPack that they stole from S.H.I.E.L.D., falling to his presumed doom in the mountains, but he survived, but is in a full body cast, and he's out for revenge. I shall tell you all you need, stripling, and more. So, let's get past these advertisements here. And the scene switches to the former Camp Verde Apache reservation, that's Warpath's tribe, and current X-Force bunker base, Arizona. So it's 7:55 in the evening, but it is much later on the East Coast. And so Cannonball apologizes for calling Professor X. The last time these two spoke was in X-Force number 19, when Cannonball, Sam Guthrie, was determined in his the path he was going to follow in Cable's footsteps. And he had a little bit of a philosophical difference and debate with the professor in that issue, but he's here looking for advice from his old mentor, specifically about the externals. And the professor can't really help him. He says that he only has a smattering of knowledge, which has been gained through rumor and unsubstantiated hearsay. A band of mutants possessed with the gift of immortality on top of their mutagenic abilities. And the professor is kind of skeptical about their existence. Quite frankly, I dismiss much of it as nothing more than tall tales. And what I find very interesting in this panel here is that you can see that Sam is watching in on what's going on in X-Force's jet, where his team have captured Cruel. So he can see this, and Cruel is one of the externals himself. And he's not revealing that information to the professor. So he's getting info from the professor, but not giving, not how shall I put it, not being absolutely forthcoming to the professor about everything that he's up to. So Sam follows up on what the professor was saying, that these people do exist, he insists. Whether they are what they say they are or not, I don't know, but they believe it. Then they require our attention, says the professor. So, let's see. Interesting image here. Borderless panel of Sam up out of his seat and saying they already got X-Force's attention, but I can't touch them. In order to save Bobby's life, I had to promise the external called Gideon and I'd stay out of his affairs. And the professor chips in and says, but you say they've kidnapped 3 of your friends, Sam. They have, he says. Is that reason enough to break my promise? Does that make me any better than Gideon? So he is looking for an ethical perspective from the professor, and the professor's perspective is going to be different from Cable's. So Sam wrestling with a moral conundrum here, and the professor calling back to their last conversation in X-Force 19, saying, as I told you weeks ago, Sam, the choice is yours and the road you tread is a difficult one. And that really is like adult responsibility. You got to make moral choices for yourself. So Sam there, interesting close-up there on his kind of weary eye as he says, no kidding, there's no easy answer. Call me if you need our help, says the professor. I have faith you will make the right choice. And so the professor calls off, and Sam says, well, that makes one of us, as he looks in on what's going on with Cruel, as Shatterstar and the rest are making their way towards Arizona, it would seem. And then the scene switches again. This picks up from action in the previous issue inside the corridors of Department K, which have been infiltrated by the real Domino and Grizzly. Grizzly, formerly a member of Weapon Prime, and here they are facing the new members of Weapon Prime. Well, there's some old figures there from Weapon Prime, including Yeti and Tiger Strike, who's back, but there's also new characters. Double Trouble, symbiotic plasma dischargers, which are they're a little reminiscent of the Fenris twins in that regard. And also this character here, we'll learn his name on the next page. Very 90s looking design on him. So he's charging there away, it would seem. And Domino takes cover behind Grizzly. She says, Grizzly, you're such a beer-soaked, useless bag of meat. Cover me while I reload. And Grizzly responds and says, oh, perhaps I'm not so useless after all. And I just like this, where she just kind of breathes out, herp, like that. Do we retreat? That's an interesting locution there. in Fabian Nicieza's script, and it's kind of giving Domino a different personality from Vanessa when she was masquerading as Domino. So we're learning who Domino is, kind of almost for the first time, in particular in the previous issue and this one. So she says there has to be a way out of here without going through them. Hammer, you online. So she's got a little microphone there coming in on the right hand side of her face, and Hammer is the third member of their little team. He's outside in this battle van, as it turns out to be, and he's monitoring things because he's patched in to Department K security systems and cameras, so he can see what's going on in there. And he sees this character Killjoy sneaking up behind Domino there, and Domino asks him, what do you suggest we do? I suggest you duck, he says. So great sequence here on this particular page. Greg Capullo not afraid of leaving some white space in the backgrounds of these pages. It's very designy, it looks good. Domino here ducking precisely out of the way of Killjoy's blades as he introduces himself, and Grizzly there getting in on the action as well and knocking some dust into I think what happens here, actually no, is that Domino reaches into her pack, finds in it a magnesium flare, and she sets it off in Killjoy's face. So Hammer outside tells Domino, go 2 levels up, you'll find an air conditioning vent, I'll meet you outside. So Domino decides, okay, Grizz, Hammer says we go topside, so that's what they're going to do. But I really like the way that Capullo's moving the camera, so to speak, around here in these particular panels. It really emphasizes the dynamism of the fight sequence. So what Grizzly does is he punches out the ceiling and pulls Domino up after him. And here Tiger Strike reveals it's not an air ventilation duct that they're entering, but rather they found the sewer runoff access duct. Domino here saying quietly to herself, did he just say what I think he said? And so they're firing after them. This is a really nicely lit panel with Domino and Grizzly there. Nice spotting of blacks in the particular panel. And Grizzly here saying air conditioning vent. Remember the op in Cairo when you trudged through 2 miles of untreated raw sewage? And she responds, humph, how could I forget? Well, you smell worse now. So really good, humorous, banter type dialogue written by Fabian Nicieza here. I'm pretty sure that he enjoyed himself writing this particular one over Greg Capullo's really fluent storytelling art. So into the van they go. More banter here where Hammer asks, are we clear? And Grizzly says, except for Domino's perfume. And she responds, thanks. It's called Essence de Mort, Hammer. And he gets the French reference, kill me after we get away. Besides, would you have run into the access if I told you it was a sewer system? Systems link 0 to 80 in 5. Peel. Good kind of action adventure type language here that Nicieza has definitely borrowed from James Cameron's Aliens film in particular, I feel. More silhouetted figures here. It's these twins emerging, and Tiger Strike is is flying after them as well. Hammer is a paraplegic, but he's able to use these operating systems to control the van, and now the van turns, much to the surprise of Tiger Strike, into a jet, and off it goes. Okay, fine, says Tiger Strike, round 1 to you guys, but Prime will track you down, then we'll see what happens. So what a great little action sequence that was from Nicieza and Capullo. Really, really good stuff. And then the scene switches to the rugged Oregon coast and a more talky scene here between Nicodemus and Gideon. So there's a lot of just going over what we already know from the previous couple of issues by these two guys. I like the lighting here that in the black and white art, but also I like Javin's, if it is Marie Javin's, her colors here for the sunset. And so, you know, it was 7:55 p.m. in Arizona, and I guess time has passed, and it's getting around that time here on the West Coast too. So they're having tea, and it looks like, Nicodemus is peeling an orange there with his long fingernails. That's really good, what would I say, like acting in Capullo's art. And that's something he's very good at. I've noted before where he has Feral grooming herself in the art, no attention drawn to it in the dialogue or in the third person captions. So he's definitely adding acting into his contribution to the comic, and it's done very well. So of course, Gideon and Nicodemus have 3 members of X-Force prisoners, and that is Boom Boom, Warpath, and Siren, and they're using the trio as bait with which to spring their trap. They want Cannonball, they want to examine his DNA in order to find out what's happening to externals who are dying, even though that is seemingly impossible, because the whole business, or the whole deal with the externals, is that they're immortal. So how is that happening? So what's happening here in this scene is we have X-Force, and they are above the skies of the Colorado Rockies, and they are debating what to do now with the information that Cruel has given them. And they have a holographic representation here of Gideon and Nicodemus's clifftop mansion or base overlooking the Pacific that we just saw on the previous couple of pages. And we have Richter here saying it's difficult to sneak into and out of. And Shatterstar says, best then, and this is typical Shatterstar characterization, best then to simply approach with a full-fledged frontal assault. And that's old X-Force. That's Cable. That's everybody leaping out of their flying mode of transport, their shuttle, whatever it may be. Are we going to get that again? A little variation on it, in fact. Sunspot here says it would certainly prevent Gideon from having the time to duplicate our powers. And Cruel wants to say something too. He says, by Mitra, worry not over that effeminate green-haired fool's matrix-absorbing abilities. Immortal though he be, his bones can still be broken, his flesh rent asunder. Attack with impunity, seize the day. I love that. That's so funny. That dialogue that Nicieza has given him. Carpe diem, seize the day. And Richter here is skeptical. He says, great strategic advice from the guy in the body cast. But Shatterstar is determined. No, he says, Cruel is correct in that at least we have what we need. We know who is holding our comrades, and we know where. Why does not ultimately matter. And as for how they will be rescued, our options are limited, and the ones remaining quite suitable to my preferences, he says. By the way, I've decided who the letterer is, because these kind of bolded and enlarged phrases and words is distinctive of Chris Eliopoulos. So it's Chris Eliopoulos who's the letterer here for sure. And so Shatterstar continues, and this is a really cool sequence. So their shuttle touches down, and there emerges from it this kind of like car tank. We come in hard and fast, exclaims Shatterstar, and leave a trail of destruction in our wake. That's brilliant. So the vehicle's called the Gainer. It handles like a dream, so it's just crashing through the pine forest there. And Richter says, haven't been joyriding like this since me and my cousins hot-wired cars in Guadalajara. And Sunspot says we're there in 10 seconds. Star, Feral, get ready. This is reminiscent, to me at least, of that scene in Aliens where Ripley is driving the transport into the base to rescue the Marines from the attacking aliens. It reminds me a little bit of that, and I just feel there's a little inspiration coming from James Cameron's Aliens for elements of this particular issue. It's almost as if Fabian Nicieza rewatched it before writing this particular script. So the vehicle slams through the outer wall of Gideon and Nicodemus's cliffside house and right into it. So that's a really good sequence there. So they leap out of the way, And Nicodemus asks, what manner of vehicle is that? But the lads here, they are not going to answer. Instead, they're picking their targets. Choose it or lose it, Bobby. But the old geezer is mine, shaking and baking him from the inside out. Fine with me. And again, that's a line of dialogue from James Cameron's Aliens. Shake and bake. But in any case, here, fine with me, Richter, as long as Gideon's mine. So we have Richter taking out Nicodemus, and Sunspot getting some payback on Gideon, who tortured him and played him for a fool, blasting him there. So they're all down, the two externals down, and I really like this Feral, like right on top of Nicodemus with her claws there ready to cut his throat out, and hissing on top of him, and Shatterstar ready to cut Gideon's throat as well. And Sunspot takes charge. Gideon, he addresses him, I've seen you looking better. It appears you taught me the art of the hostile takeover too well for your own good. No. And then there's a scene switch to Norwell, Massachusetts, and Vanessa, and she's packing up after the attack by Deadpool and Sluggo. And this is a really nice little establishing shot there. The back of the car, the architecture of the building, and then the interior of her bedroom as she's packing. But also just look at the detail of the weeping angel as well. That doesn't have to be there. That is Greg Capullo having, enjoying himself with the art and showing it here and doing something a little extra and a little different, including that little sculptural detail there. And then, of course, it's an X-Force comic. So right behind Vanessa's head, there is a gun pressed to the back of her head, and it's Deadpool, because you've always been too much of a wuss, Vanessa. That's why I've been caught up. She's asking here, why did I drag you into my problems? Her dead friend, and there's an implication maybe lover as well, Valentina. Why did I drag you into my problems with Tolliver and Deadpool and Cable and all the other maniacs I've been caught up with the last few years? Deadpool says, because you've always been too much of a wuss, Vanessa. That's why. So he's got the drop on her again. And he's got Sluggo with him as well. Just look at the size of this guy back there. That's really fun to draw. So Deadpool continues. Don't forget to pack the black bathing suit with the dolphins on them. They were always my favorite. No, and she says, Sluggo, Deadpool, wait, don't do this. Do what, Nessie? He responds. Sluggo's the chowderhead who off Valentina. I mean, I never liked what you and her had together, but I didn't want to waste ammo killing her. Sides, I can't ice you till we have a little talk. But they're interrupted. Shot from behind. You can see Deadpool shot right through the back and out of his gut. And who's arrived except for Domino? And interesting pupil there that Vanessa has as well. Strange looking, distinctive. So Domino's there with Grizzly in the back. And also Hammer has come in his wheelchair as well, which is a bit weird why he'd come in there. Maybe better for him to stay back in the car, but I'm sure that wheelchair that he's using probably has guns mounted in it somewhere, I can well imagine. So Domino says, yeah, me, whose life did you steal this time, girlie? And she responds, cowed, no one, I had to dupe your life. Tolliver forced me to, but Domino's not having that. She pulls her head up by the hair. I was held hostage for over a year. In all that time, you had no chance of escaping. Give me one good reason why I shouldn't blow your head off after what you did to me. So Vanessa gives a reason, because I know where you can find Cable's team. I know where X-Force is. So we're leading up to a reunion of the team. But as I said at the beginning of this video, it will be the first time that Domino has met the members of X-Force. Seoul's Oregon home. And, so this is an interesting panel as well. Top-down panel here, conveying a lot of information. Shatterstar with his two swords either side of Gideon's neck. We've got Warpath here wrapped in a blanket. The other two female members of X-Force rescued from the water, wrapped in blankets as well. And we've got Feral here with her hand around Nicodemus's neck as well. And what's happening here is that Gideon starts to taunt them. taunts Sunspot. He says, "Fact is, Roberto, I'm surprised you even survived the experiment I performed on you, which prefaces any disappointment I have over this callous confrontation. This is not how I would have taught you to handle this situation, young man." So he's trying to assert mentor authority over Sunspot, but Sunspot's having none of it. Not, but it is how Cable taught Sam. Hit hard, hit fast, and smile while you're doing it. That's good dialogue there. "I simply provided my friends the knowledge that neither of you could fend off a close-in physical threat," says Sunspot. "Though, if you're willing to see if your powers can react more quickly than steel and claws." So it's a stalemate. Let's continue. Ooh. Yeah. Oh, here we are. So we're coming to the end. A stalemate? No way, says Richter. "We make the choices now, cabrones." And Gideon here, defiant, and makes the point, "You actually broke the promise you made me. I would not have thought Xavier's children capable of such dissimulation." But Sunspot has got a handwritten note for Gideon from Sam, and this is how Sam has cut the Gordian knot of the moral dilemma of breaking or keeping his promise. "Dear Giddy," I like that. "I didn't break my word. I said I would never interfere in external matters again, and I haven't. The others did. I kept my promise. Back off now, and I'll let you keep your head. Your pal, Samuel Guthrie." That's very good. That's good stuff. And Sunspot, with a big smile on his face, says, "Here's how it plays out. We take our friends back, leave this beautiful home on your gracious hospitality, and you wipe the dust off your lapels and the shame from your conscience. Getting back to square one, Roberto," says Gideon. "Didn't I teach you that when involved in delicate negotiations, you should never allow a momentary position of advantage to slip from your grasp?" Nice top-down angle there. Sunspot grabs him by the mouth to shut him up and says, "You also taught me one other very important thing. Never waste valuable manpower hours on a client deemed unnecessary of that attention. You are yesterday's news, Gideon. Funny, isn't it? You and your band of sad old men claim to be immortals. Well, I've got news for you. We just feel you aren't worth our time. I hope you understand this was not about winning or losing or mergers and acquisitions, because that's not important. Despite all the lessons Gideon taught me, it was about getting our friends back safe and whole, getting my friends back and my life back. Now it's done." So that's a really cathartic speech from Sunspot after all he's been through over the previous months. Very good stuff, and a nice anchor image there of the whole team as well, getting ready to leave. "But we need to study the newest ascendant, for without Sam Guthrie, the externals may all die." And Shatterstar simply says as he gets in the gainer, "Old man, remember this. If you continue to harass us, you will suffer that fate anyway." That's good stuff. And I like that angle there, the way that Shatterstar's face is mostly behind his shoulder, and the armor plating over his shoulder. That is very, very good stuff. And away goes their vehicle back to the shuttle. Next, the return of Rusty and Skids. Mutant terrorists or just terrified mutants? It's a really good issue here, I feel. Letters page here concerning issue number 20. And yeah, it's good stuff from Fabian Nicieza and Greg Capullo. They've really hit their stride as creative collaborators at this point in the run, I think. I think that Nicieza's dialogue is really sharp, witty. He really captures the voices of young mutants, 17, 18, 19 years old. And I like the way that Cannonball is walking that fine line. He's neither taking wholly Cable's lessons 100%, nor the professor's from when he was a member of the New Mutants, but rather he's coming to a synthesis, a blend of the two perspectives. And he's doing a really good job of it too. So there you go. I do hope you enjoyed this review and commentary on X-Force number 23. Let me know your thoughts about this in the comment section to the video. If you enjoyed my review, please like it in YouTube and share it. It really does help the channel. If you haven't done so already, subscribe to the channel and stay tuned for more content like this.